Hi and welcome to the channel. So in this video I'm going to go through a standard full valet. Firstly, I apologise for any noise interference. It is quite noisy out here. As I've said in a lot of other videos, this is just my way of doing things. There's no definitive right or wrong way to do valeting or detailing, as long as you get the car clean to a professional standard, you don't cause any damage, and if you're a valeter that's doing this for a business, then you do it in a timely fashion. Obviously, if you're taking 5-6 hours to do a standard full valet, you're going to lose money because you're never going to be able to charge the customer the time that you've actually put in. Right, so this is a standard full valet on a Range Rover Sport. Unfortunately, I've already started the valet. The video was sort of an afterthought. But I'm going to go through the basic steps, what I do. As I said, no definitive right or wrong way. So basically, for something like this, my thought process, it's almost like being a kid again. The very rare times we used to get a roast dinner on a Sunday, I'd always eat the veg first. Unfortunately, my mum thought I ate the veg first because I liked it the most. I absolutely hated the veg. I just wanted to get it out the way. This kind of work is no different for me, really. I want to get the dirtiest parts of the car done first, and then obviously that detail or that valet becomes a lot easier. So for me, the driver's compartment and normally the trunk or the boot are the dirtiest parts of the car. Unless people have got pets or children, then it could potentially be the back seats. So each valet is different. I'll assess the vehicle first, but I always want to get the dirtiest parts done first, not just because obviously they're the most time consuming, but if you leave the dirtiest parts to last, you clean all the rest of the vehicle, there is a potential, especially if you've got pets, that hair will go into the air and land on the areas that you've already cleaned, and that will potentially mean you'll have to do them again. So again, from a business point of view, you don't want to be going over the same areas twice. So dirtiest parts of the car first. On a standard valet like this, the customer doesn't have children, or at least doesn't have children of an age that they'll mess the car up. Doesn't have pets. So I'm going to start in the boot and then do the driver's side and then move my way through. Right, so on all of the passenger compartments, I always do the same thing, the same routine, almost time and time again. And that is that we start on the outside and we work our way in. And with a valet, I always start at the top and work my way down. And the reason for that is any debris up here will fall down. If you do the bottom of the compartment first, then obviously as you move up, contamination is going to fall onto the area you've already cleaned, and you're going to have to do it again. Two parts to any compartment, really. With regard to a boot, you've got the tailgate and you've got the internal compartment. On doors, you've obviously got the doors, the door cards, and then the internal part. So I always work on the outside and in. So start at the tailgate, doing the outside of the tailgate first, then the inside, work my way down. Lastly, I'll do the glass. Right, so regarding the tailgate, obviously work from the outside in. Two items that I'll use normally is a microfiber cloth and a sash brush, a decorator sash brush, and this is a medium density brush. The only thing I'll do with the brushes is normally they have a metal band running around the outside, so I've covered that with electrical tape just so that we don't get any metal on metal contact. So if this was particularly dirty, I'd use standard all-purpose cleaner. So this is actually Flash Professional diluted to the manufacturer's recommended dilution rate. Never ever, and this is just my thing, never spray anything like this directly onto the vehicle. Always spray onto the brush away from the vehicle, because you'll get splatter of the spray, and if you miss that, it will actually become it'll have a different finish and you'll see that splatter. So I never ever spray anything inside the vehicle. So wet the brush with the all-purpose cleaner, just go along, clean everything, every nook and cranny, even down to the struts. And then once we've cleaned that, microfiber to wipe everything off. Obviously the hard plastic don't need to do that, so again, spray away from the vehicle directly onto the microfiber. I wouldn't use this one for internal, so basically we've got two microfiber cloths. One to do the extremities, gets very dirty, and then a clean one to do all of the finishes. You can use specific cleaners for this, but I find on hard plastics, all-purpose cleaner, especially something as good as Flash Professional, is the right thing to do. Once we've done that, this has a piece of carpet in here, so this gets hoovered. And then last thing we need to do is the glass. Move down to the actual vehicle itself. So again, same technique, spray onto the brush, into all these nooks and crannies, especially where the hinges are, all over. Any electrical feeds in this like concertinaed casing, try and get behind there. One of the main reasons for using a brush is so you can get into places you can't get with a microfiber. Once it's all done, wipe down with the microfiber and then work your way in. So on the inside, again, we carry on with this theme of working from top to bottom. So the next thing I'd do is a clean microfiber and wipe down all of these surfaces. I'd normally take the parcel shelf out, which is what I've actually done with this particular vehicle. Pull the parcel shelf all the way out, make sure that's clean. That's an area that a lot of people miss. And then work our way down, and it's only really the last stage that I go into the vacuuming part. So with regard to the actual loading part of the boot space, we're going to wipe all this down. When we come to vacuum, nothing worse than having debris inside the rubber seal. So again, I use another decorator's brush. This is quite a dense brush. Again, electrical tape around the metal band that holds the bristles in place. And it's just a case of taking out all of the debris and obviously straight into the vacuum cleaner. If you need to, just open up any seals, again without causing any damage, to get all of the debris out. When it comes to vacuuming the carpet and obviously on the side walls, start off at the top. I'm not going to turn the vacuum cleaner on because it's probably too noisy, but start off at the top, work your way down. Use a brush as well if you need to, depends how contaminated this area is. But if you watch some of my other videos about cleaning carpets, I do what's called the brush technique, which is combing the carpet first, get the fibers in all the same direction, so it's a lot easier for that embedded debris to come out. And something like this, the load area, I would normally take this out and actually do this away from the car. Just a lot easier to do. So start at the top, work your way down. This comes out of the car, gives you an opportunity to vacuum the inside. Again, we have to do this in a timely fashion. I'm not talking about going absolutely crazy unless you're doing it for yourself. But a quick vacuum, make sure that where this sits on the edge, all that's done. And really important is to make sure the edge of any load area like this, any carpeted area is done, because you could spend a long time doing this. If you miss areas like that, you get the customer, they lift this up to get something, a tool or whatever, out of the boot, and although this looks clean, all this is just full of debris. Doesn't look good. So once this area is fully clean, it's all been wiped down, the last thing I'll do is maybe put stripes in, depends what the customer wants, a logo in there, the manufacturer's logo into the boot as well. Bit of a gimmick, but a lot of customers really like that. And that's sort of the last stage of this. Then we clean the glass and we move on to the next part. Really important, don't forget any side glass that's in the boot area. If the customer has pets, normally the pets will go in here, and it's the glass and some of the plastic that takes most of the contamination. especially if they've got dogs. Another thing I'll say is, if this was a heavily contaminated vehicle and the plastic has got a lot of dirt on it where dogs have been getting in and out, I normally use a brush to actually try and get into the tiny little indentations or the pattern within the plastic. If we just wipe the plastic down, once it dries, it'll still look dirty. Right, so that's the boot or the trunk done. I won't go into putting stripes into carpets. I've already done a video on that, so have a look on the YouTube channel for that. The only area I tend to put interior dressing on is high wear areas like this section here, the load area of the trunk or the boot of the car. That's the only places that I will put something like this, a protective coating. I won't put it anywhere else. You see these valeters that put this horrible shiny stuff literally everywhere. The reason they do that, one is obviously to try and make it look new, but the other one is it does hide dirt. So if you don't do the brush method, where because this is a textured finish, I'm going with a brush to get all of the ingrained dirt out. If you don't do that, you put a dressing, you just wipe it down and put a dressing on, that will stay look clean for at least for 3 or 4 days, but eventually that dressing will wear off and that dirt will come through. So yeah, only high wear areas get the dressing. Right, so next up for me is the driver's compartment. Again, same process as the boot. We've got the door card, and we've got the actual interior space. So I'm going to start on the door and the door card and then work my way in. 2 microfibers, dirty one and a clean one. Dirty one for doing the door edges and the sills, and then the clean one obviously to do all of the sort of door card and then the interior of the vehicle. One thing I didn't mention, I'll probably forget a lot in this video because do it as long as me, it's almost an automatic process. But obviously clean the car out first, so get all of the debris out of the car, get all of the mats out of the car, so you're just basically left with the bare shell of the car itself. So as I said, I'm going to start with the door card. I'm going to wipe down all of the sort of metal parts of the door frame, including the hinges. Really important you do that. Nothing worse than being sat there as a driver, opening the door and just seeing a load of dirt and debris on the hinges when you've paid for a full valet. Right, so just a quick point on the equipment that I use. I have gone through this in other videos. So I use a fairly standard vacuum cleaner. This is a Porter cable. Titan in the UK do some really good ones. Not a particularly powerful vacuum cleaner because, as I said before, I do what's called the brush method. So I'll use brushes in order to comb or to try and get as much debris out of the carpet first. That puts all the fibres from the carpet in the same direction, makes it a lot easier to get out, especially embedded twigs, that kind of thing. And it's only after I've done maybe 80% of the work do I go in with a vacuum cleaner, which means that I don't need a powerful one. But the design of the vacuum cleaner is quite important for me. One of these kind of stubby ones with the extension tubes sat in, again the Titan one does very similar, allows me to load the vacuum cleaner up with the various attachments that I need. Also, I've extended the hose on this. So this is actually a 2.5 meter hose, really important. What you don't want is a short hose where this is on wheels and it's dragging and hitting the side of the vehicle as you're working inside and you can't even see that. So I've got various attachments, brushes for the carpets, and then a wet brush. Again, if this is particularly bad, we've got our all-purpose cleaner spray away from the vehicle, spray onto the actual bristles, and then go in. And brushes allow you to get in places that cloths simply won't allow you to do. So exterior first, go through, clean that. Once I've done that, again, dirty microfiber, or the microfiber, I use the same microfiber for this section, and then another microfiber cleaner one for the actual door card itself. So same principle as in the boot that you saw. Go through with the brush, get rid of as much debris as possible, and then obviously in with the microfiber to wipe it all down, then move into the center. So I'll start at the top of the door frame and work my way down. It's the same principle every single time. Exterior to interior, top to bottom. That way you'll reduce the amount of times that you're having to go over areas twice because debris has fallen in. Right, so as I go through this valet, I am trying to impart, if you like, some things that people may or may not be doing. So apologies, the video might jump around a little bit as I think to myself, well, you know, perhaps I need to know that. So with regard to door card and the interior of the vehicle, the first thing I'll normally do, start at the top, work my way down, but use a brush, detailing brush, just something that I can get into areas. So I'll take the vacuum cleaner firstly and start to work my way down. I can see debris coming out of here already. I've not done it. I'm not turning the vacuum cleaner on because of the noise, but I'll basically hold the vacuum cleaner, go down with the brush, get everything out of here. If you don't do that, what can happen is, if there is any debris in there, and I've seen crisps, cake, all sorts of stuff in there, when the window comes down, that can smear the glass and it goes back up again. Just looks like you haven't cleaned it. With regard to switches, into the switches, you'll never get a cloth right into the corners. So in with the brush to begin with, we'll get into all these little complex areas. This is another area of the door card where debris forms. Again, vacuum cleaner, go down there, around the switches as well. Vacuum cleaner obviously in here. Once you've vacuumed everywhere, a decent wipe down. When it comes to stuff like this, a piano, what I call a piano black finish, instead of using all-purpose cleaner, I'll use glass cleaner on a separate cloth. So everywhere where there's a high reflective surface like this on a center console will always get done with glass cleaner, because the trouble with APC is it's not got the solvents in it. It doesn't evaporate very quickly, so you can get smears. Even though it's probably clean, it looks dirty. Whereas with glass cleaner, you put it on, it evaporates really quickly, and then obviously you polish it off. One of the things I'll do, which you'll see at the end of the video, is I always make a note of where this kind of finish is, and I'll always go around at the end of the valet and wipe this down, because you can touch it by accident and it smears, and you really don't want that when a customer gets in the car. Right, so I've done the door, I've done the exterior of the door, done the door card, I'm happy with that. Done the door sills, moving to the inside of the vehicle. First thing I do is look up. The amount of valeters that don't bother doing anything on the roof line, and all I'm talking about is smudges. So this is actually a black Alcantara, so it's not too bad. I'm just looking to see if there's any debris, any fluff, anything like that. Of course, part of a standard valet is not wiping down the entire headline, or it's not for me anyway, but you get smudges down here, get smudges around the grab handles. Always check the vanity mirrors, make sure that they're obviously nice and clean. And then of course you've got the in this particular vehicle, you've got a pan roof. You've got to clean that. That's as far as I'm concerned, that's part of the valet. So same principle as before, start at the top, work your way down, use your detailing brush to get into all of the switches, get as much debris from around those switches as you can. Working our way down onto the dashboard, onto the steering wheel, onto the center console, all the switches around here, the air vents. So what I normally do is close the air vents, try and get as much debris off as possible, open them up, get in there. You're not going to be able to do that in a timely fashion with a cloth. And especially when you get into the corners here, a cloth won't go in there. And what you could end up with is this nice and clean, and then a small sort of area in the side that's curved that's full of debris, and that just looks shocking. So I'll be getting into all of that. Anywhere where two bits of trim meet, get into that. Into obviously where the speedometer is and all of the displays. Really important point around the switches, around the stalks on the steering wheel, get those done. And then things like the gear changing paddles on here, get in there with your brush, and then what I'll do is I'll get a clean microfiber into there and then wipe that down. That is quite a forgotten area. Same principle as before, anything like the Perspex on the display, the entertainment system, the piano black finish on this particular vehicle. I'll always use window cleaner instead of using all-purpose cleaner, because again, the potential is you can smear it. Just remember something which may be really basic and a lot of people might take the mickey out of me over it, but these types of microfiber cloths, they've got two sides. You've got a flat side and you've got a fluffy side. Other microfiber cloths have fluffy side on both. The fluffy side I would use for general cleaning and a final buff if I was polishing the exterior of the vehicle. This flat side, always use this flat side on glass, piano black trim, because what this does, it actually polishes. So two stages to glass, as you probably already know. One is obviously the cleaning stage and the other one is the polishing stage. If you don't use, so let's say we use this fluffy side on the glass and just the fluffy side. So we put the glass cleaner on, we wipe it off, we get another microfiber with the fluffy side and we buff that up. The potential is you're going to end up with streaks. What we need to do is you need to actually polish glass to get it clean. And that means using this flat side of the microfiber. That's why these microfibers are designed the way they are. You've got the fluffy side and you've got the flat side. I've got other microfibers in the van that are fluffy on both sides and they're purely used for buffing. So little tip, whether you knew that or not, I'm not sure. So I'll always use this flat side on this highly reflective interior trim and obviously the glass as well. One more point which I've just remembered, these TikTok videos where people get a lot of soap suds onto a brush and they start doing all this. It might look good for a TikTok video, but you are in for a whole world of hurt potentially. A big rule of thumb with regard to valeting as a business is you never want to exceed what's called the IP rating of any electronics, either under the bonnet, the engine, or in the inside of the vehicle. You're messing around putting a lot of water and detergent around electronic switches. There is a potential, and people will say, well, I've been doing that for years, I've never had a problem. I'm telling you now, the minute you get a problem, it's going to be very expensive. Most electrical issues in vehicles, especially a vehicle like this, are really expensive. Please don't think that because you've seen it on TikTok or Instagram or wherever else, it's what professional detailers do. I've got a lot of dealership contracts. If I went into a dealership and I started to mess around with a load of soap suds and water on the inside of a vehicle, I'd be kicked off the premises straight away. So please don't do that. The minimum amount of water inside a vehicle is always best. And again, if you do something and a customer sees you doing all this and all the steering wheel's covered in soap suds, and then 2 weeks later they get an electrical problem, even if it's nothing to do with you, they will definitely come after you. So please don't do that. So just a quick point when you come to vacuuming. Again, I use this brush method. 80% of the carpets are cleaned with a brush before we go in with a vacuum. Almost always you've got one of these plastic pads under the mats. What I tend to do is brush onto those pads because it's a lot easier for the vacuum cleaner to pick up. One of these narrow brushes, hopefully you can see that, gets in the side of the where the chair rail is, down into here, and this is a sort of a medium stiffness brush into the side. I've cleaned the pedals first. Where this comes into its own is where the carpet sort of comes down the console and then onto the floor, that strip right in the corner. We take this in and that will get rid of a lot of debris. In my experience, if you don't do the brush method, you could be there for a lot longer than you need to be in order to try and get as much debris out of the carpet as possible. And then what they tend to do is, because just vacuuming isn't working, they'll go to a higher a more expensive vacuum cleaner, more powerful. In my opinion, you don't really need to do that. Obviously, you're going to clean all the way under the seats. Be careful of the electrics. There are some very fragile connectors connecting the airbag system, the electrics for the seat itself under there. So be very careful when you're doing that, especially on things like VWs. VWs have yellow and black connectors, which are, in my opinion, not fit for purpose. You can break those so easily, so obviously be careful with that, and just do the best you possibly can. Obviously, this is where the vacuum cleaner attachment, the narrow one that gets into the side of the seat, make sure you get into there. The thing I always say to people who are starting off valeting is sit in the driver's seat and have a look round. Have a look at what the driver sees. Have a look at what the driver could potentially touch. You know, concentrate more. I mean, you should be cleaning it all, but concentrate more on those areas because they are definitely going to be the dirtiest. On the seats themselves, into the corner of the seats. And again, I'll go through that in a second once I've cleaned all this, and I can show you the seat again. I've already done the seat, but I'll go through it again just for the purpose of the video, because obviously I'm going for a top-down approach, so the seats will have been done before we get to the actual footwells. Right, so on seats, these are not particularly good seats to demonstrate on, fairly straightforward, but when it comes to seats, before I do the footwell, I will go in with a brush and the vacuum everything. Once I'm happy, wipe it down, and then another vacuum over the top of that, just a quick one, because sometimes when you wipe it down you disturb other debris. But areas to look out for with regard to seats, where the stitching lines are, open those up. Be a little bit aggressive, especially with your hands. Open those up before you vacuum. Use the brush, so you'll get food, debris all stuck in there that even just opening it up and vacuuming isn't going to get rid of it. So take your brush, and that's where a brush like this, a large density bristle brush like this, comes into its own. Open it up, you know, brush in, get quite aggressive, vacuum, brush in, get quite aggressive, vacuum. That'll get rid of a lot of the debris. Areas to look out for, obviously under here. So normally with these types of leather seats, it'll be leather, and then under here there'll be a fabric, and it's a magnet for dirt. The same in here, and the same actually in here. So push that back, vacuum in. Again, if you're a valeter, you're doing this for a business, don't want to go completely over the top, because obviously you need to earn money. But it's just these little things, these little areas. About a centimetre down in here, get that done. You can even recline the backrest to get in a bit deeper. I do that sometimes, not in this car because it's not particularly dirty, but where there's a lot of debris, especially if it's owned, if it's a van or it's owned by a builder, or you know, dog walk or something like that. Take the seat back, get in there, clean it as much as you can. So vacuum with the brush into all of these stitch line areas, then wipe down, and then back onto vacuum very quickly, just to make sure that you've got debris. Obviously, front of the seats, important. This area of the plastic side piece, this is where a lot of dirt will be, some damage. So again, you might have to go in there with a brush. So something like this, backhand brush. So move it away from the car, spray it with the all-purpose cleaner, and then just agitate to get rid of the dirt from there. Brush around these switches, down in here, and then into here if you can. I do have an attachment that gets down into these sort of crevices, which I'll use. You don't have to buy anything like that, just as long as you can get a cloth in there or whatever. The worst vehicles that I tend to detail that I've got literally no, these 4x4s are great, but literally no gaps at the side, you can't get any tool in there. VWs, the Golfs, the some of the higher range ones, it's so tight at the side of the seats, very difficult to do that. Again, you don't want to cause any damage, so pushing these narrow nozzles down into there, you're going to scrape the plastic, you're going to cause damage, and it's certainly something you don't want to do as a valeter. So with seats, it's just really brushing and vacuuming. Where you've got a perforated seat like this and you may have some debris in here, then you could use a brush like this, a little bit of APC on it, and just go around, not too aggressively, to clean inside the pores. Of course you can do that. So final stages of this compartment, obviously the glass. Just a small point, make sure that when you clean the glass, what I normally do is I put the ignition on and then take the glass down a little bit to get that top edge done. Obviously put it up and then clean the rest of the glass. And last thing regarding seats is always extend the headrests, clean under the headrests as well. It's another area that some valeters don't feel like they need to do, but that's where a lot of dust collects, and without being too vulgar, it's where a lot of dandruff will collect as well off the obviously the occupants of the vehicle. Right, so the last job to do on the interior is to add a room spray. I think the fragrance that you leave in a car is almost as important as the detail that you actually do. It also gives me a really good opportunity to go back over each compartment to see whether any dust or debris is settled on the parts that I've already cleaned, because that does happen. No matter how meticulous you are, you move on to other parts of the car and you do tend to kick up a little bit of debris. So leaving the room fragrance spray till the last gives me that opportunity to go back. And I've already found in the boot of this car some bits that have settled from other parts of the car. So the one I'm using today is Antigua 1860s, and this particular one is sandalwood and bergamot. You buy this online, or I think Costco in the UK have got this at the moment, about £16.50, but there is a litre and it does last you a hell of a long time. It's a very, very strong fragrance, so you don't need a lot. A couple of sprays in each compartment of the car, that's more than enough.